Hello, YouTube
Hi.
pedal nerds and nerdines.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And Nardines. Hi.
Kiana.
Girls, guys.
You wanted more Kiana. There's more Kiana. So here's what I thought. Wait, I'm gonna have to change my position. We're gonna do the Boss ES8 Switcher tutorial series, which you've begged me to do, and Boss has said, could you please do it because no one gets the damn thing. We're not gonna do it for Boss. We're gonna bitch about things. We're gonna show every tiny little detail you can do with this, including switching with the switch outs, tapping with the switch outs, doing MIDI tap to a Strymon, preparing it for MIDI by removing the continuous controllers 80 and 81, doing expression control to MIDI, expression control to control out, and of course parallel looping, all that, right?
Exactly. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why the problem is, I would just go right over your heads because I would assume you know everything and you don't even need these videos. The thing is, Kiana knows shit.
And since that's what I do best, knowing nothing, I'm right here to
Know nothing.
know nothing.
So my idea is, I'm going to explain all this stuff to her. And if she says, huh? I know I'm going too fast. So in this series, I'm going to have to explain to her what MIDI is. You know MIDI, right? Okay. Have you ever switched your amp with a control out on a looper?
No.
Okay. Do you know what that means?
I have no clue.
Okay, good. Do you know what continuous controllers are?
No.
Do you know what a looper switcher is?
Something to do with a loop.
Okay, so in this already pretty damn funny video, I'm going to explain to Kiana, and hopefully therefore you, what the ES8 is capable of and what it even does. And then in the next video, we're going to hook up a couple of pedals to it and program that. And then in the next video, we're going to move them in their order. And then the next video, a parallel. And then so baby steps. So this video is going to be quite long. But then, that's what she said? No, that makes no sense. This video is going to be,
really
I'm just trying quite long. This will also be politically incorrect in some ways.
When is it ever not?
Good point. I could go for the chapstick, but
No.
we're going to do that later. I'm going to have to put on some, you get the joke at some point. Wait, I'm going to have to, turn that off because you get lots of bings. The whole Kemper thing is still going bing, bing, bing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, good, don't go there. So, what is a looper? Here's number one. This is a looper.
I want to see it too. Alright, thanks.
So the problem is that this is what people think a looper is. And it is. It is a looper / sampler. You know, you step on it, it records what you play, you step on it, and then it plays it. It creates an audio loop. Yeah. The problem with that is, that's exactly what it is, an audio loop. When we talk about the ES8, it is a looper switcher. It has pedals in loops, meaning we create, how do I explain this? God damn it, this is difficult. So usually you would have, hold that. Do I have Boss pedals here? I have Boss pedals here. Let's bring in some Boss products. So here we have 3 pedals, okay? So usually you would put your guitar in here, and then a cable from here in here, and from here in here, and you create what we call a daisy chain. You know where that comes from?
From daisy necklaces?
Yes.
See, I do know stuff.
Little cute girlsy flower things that you do on a meadow with kittens and whiskers. You know?
I like kittens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. She's here with the black and the metal thing, and she's like, I like kittens. To be eaten!
No!
Okay, daisy chain. So you daisy chain pedals. What's the disadvantage of that?
So much cable?
Yes, you're degrading your signal the more pedals and the more cables you add. Each pedal, even if it has true bypass, which means the signal just runs through, is another connection with a cable. So you're just adding cable. And obviously, the more you do that, the more your guitar signal will be degraded when it comes out at the end. What if I have 7 pedals? What if I want to create a sound using 2 of them? I have to do what?
You'll have to switch.
You step on them, you turn them on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you turn them on, click, click. What if I want to now not have those 2 but 3 other ones?
Well, you have to turn those off and turn on the 3 others.
Which altogether means how many steps do you have to do?
How many was that? 5?
5! Yeah, what grade are you in again?
I know stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, you have to step 5 times. Now imagine you're on stage, you're playing, and that's tap dancing.
Which can be classy, right?
Usually it means people stop in what they're doing, step, play the solo, step. It's annoying as... I was gonna say annoying as fuck. Can I say that? Annoying as hell. It's annoying as hell.
Actually, is that more politically correct?
What? Hell?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
See, clueless. So we're gonna talk about it later. It's annoying. Okay, so a daisy chain is not a good idea because of the cable length. Even that's why you want to use really good cables. I suggest Evidence Audio or Planet Waves solderless cable. Cable.
Yeah.
But in terms of easeability,
yes.
easeability, a looper switcher is a much better idea because it can remember the combination of pedals. Unless, wait a second. Unless you have one like this, which is also cool. This is the Walrus Audio Transit. This will give you 4 loops. You can put 4 pedals in it, or in whatever, several pedals in a loop, you can do that too. And this allows you to turn the loops on and off, therefore taking the pedals out of the chain and keeping your signal cleaner. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the guitar goes in, guitar goes out. And if you don't want any pedals, it's a very clean signal. Mm-hmm. You put in a pedal, it's only running through that one pedal. That's what this is for. But it is not remembering combinations. This is not programmable, it is simply taking pedals out of your signal chain. Be careful, there are loopers out there that only do that. So, the ES8 does the combinations, it remembers the combinations, and it does much more. One question I'm getting a lot, because trust me, I've done a lot of these videos, is, oh, that is great, so I can have the looper remember the settings on my pedal. Is that true?
Not with that, right?
But what about the ES8, which is right here on the table? We're going to look at it in a sec. So let's take this Solid Gold Effects Devil Drive. I set it up like this. Mm-hmm. Can the looper change that?
I don't know.
How would it do it? I mean, these are knobs, right?
Yeah.
In a certain setting. So what the looper does is it takes this pedal into the signal chain and can take it out. But can it turn the knobs?
It has to do some programming stuff, right? To
Yeah,
manage that? I guess not.
No, this is an analog pedal, so it means it actually you have to turn the knobs.
Yeah.
It can't switch the switch, it can't turn the knobs. So no, a looper switcher cannot change or remember the settings on your pedal. Unless it is a digital pedal, okay? Like the Boss DD500 or any kind of pedal that can accept MIDI input, which is it's a control language, and it can remember a number, send that number to your pedal, the pedal gets that number and says, oh, wait a second, yeah, that number means I go to this program. It's like a TV program. The looper can be a remote for switching programs, but this has no programs, this has knobs. So obviously it cannot remember the setting on your pedal. If you want different settings between songs, you're gonna have to bend down and do this manually. Okay, so therefore, so much for this. So, gonna go ahead and give you an overview here. So here's the Boss ES8 with, of course, the obligatory seahorse on it with a little of a pirate hat, because this is you need that
Yes, for it to work.
for it to work. Yes,
Yeah.
came with some yogurt.
Okay.
Okay, this one has 8 loops. What does that mean?
8 different setting possibilities.
No, no, a lot more settings. 8 loops means 8 physical points where you can insert a pedal. So, if I have I'll show you. If I have the Devil Drive, I need another cable. Okay. So I have the Devil Drive. I have in the back, we're going to show that in a sec, output 1 for the first loop goes into the pedal. Pedal output doesn't go into the next pedal. It goes back into the looper.
Okay.
So now I've cabled this pedal into the looper, and now I have I can turn the loops on and off. So right now I have the choice with loop number 1, where it's in, to turn this. It will always be on if I give it power. Let's do that just for shits and giggles. So the Devil Drive will always be on. Okay? Because if I turn this on and off, obviously you can see it's not turning on and off the Devil Drive. It's not a remote control for it. It will always be on. But if I take it out of the signal chain, right now the signal is not going to it and not coming away. It's completely out of the chain. My guitar would go through this looper and there's no distorted sound. I turn on number 1, and that means that now the signal is going through this pedal, which of course is on, and I can hear it.
Okay.
So all the pedals in the looper will always have to be on. Okay?
Yeah.
And if I now have a pedal in the second loop, let's say in the third loop, I've got all my 8 loops full, I can turn on number 1 and number 3. What I do now in this, what we call manual mode, I can control I can turn on and off my loops, and therefore the pedals in those loops, manually, just like stepping on the pedals. There's no real benefit here. If I now want to have 2 on and these off, I will still have to go and do this. Okay?
Yeah.
Manual mode is good for a rehearsal. You have nothing programmed, you don't have the sound you're looking for programmed already. So what you do is you go to manual mode, and now you can just step on these as if they're normal pedals. But what we want is program mode or memory mode, which means blue. And in this mode, I can say pedal 1, pedal 3 and 4, and then I simply save. And now when I go to, you can see right here, loop number 2 would be on, but I go to preset 1, and all of a sudden there's my 3 pedals again. So by switching between these two, you can see number 2 is on 2, and on 1, these are on. So it remembers combinations. And that's pretty much what most switcher loopers do that can be programmed. They remember the combinations of the loops. Clear so far?
Makes sense.
Okay. This can do more. This can do a lot more. Let's go. One thing that it can do that very few loopers can do is it can change the order of the loops.
Okay.
The order of the pedals is pretty important. Do I go from a compressor into an overdrive into a delay, or do I have the delay first? No, I don't. But the order is important, and the sound that comes out is highly dependent on the order of the pedals. That also means that you can experiment with some stuff. For example, a phaser can be quite subtle when it's in front of an overdrive, more severe when it's behind an overdrive. Now let's say you have one cool phaser that you really like. Where do you put it? Do you put it in loop 1 before everything else, or in loop 5 behind the overdrives? You have to make a choice.
Okay.
So with most loopers you have to make a choice. With this, you can put it, let's say, in loop 5. Okay?
Yeah.
And then it's behind your overdrives. But for one sound, for one single preset, you want it before everything. And this is how you do it. Check this out. You go loop number 5, which now is not on. So let's turn it on, just for shits and giggles. I turn loop number 5 on and save it. So we have 4 pedals on right now, but 5 is of course after 1, 2, 3, and 4, as it usually should be. I'm gonna go to my pedal order. We're gonna look at this in detail, okay? But I'm just moving 5 before 1, and that was it. So here you see which ones are on, and now loop number 5 is actually moved, they call it a matrix, before. It's kind of like you're completely rewiring your pedals and you're moving your phaser into the first position. It can change the order of all your loops, which of course gives you a lot of freedom. And how to do that we're going to look at a later video, and also talking about what makes sense. Another thing that it can do, which is even crazier, it can bring loops in parallel.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yes.
Tell me what you think it means.
It means like, I guess, kind of at the same time, you know, like not before each other, but working at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
so let's say I have my Voyager here. That's kind of a 2B Screamer overdrive. And I would have that in loop 1 and the Devil Drive in loop 2. This would be distorted. And that distorted sound is going into the Devil Drive, and the Devil Drive is working with this distorted sound, therefore distorting it even more. The thing is, parallel pathways on pedal boards are almost unheard of, because it's a lot of wiring. It's complicated. We don't even know what sounds are possible. This thing allows us to experiment in ways that guitar players really haven't experimented in. Now, I can have my guitar signal going in here and going into the amp, going clean into the Devil Drive and going into the amp, and only there being mixed together.
oh, okay.
So I can get this distortion blended in with this distortion instead of having both of them. Oh, let's put it this way, 2 delays.
Yeah.
Okay? You have a quarter note delay and an eighth note delay. If the quarter note delay goes into the eighth note delay, every delay from this one will be delayed in this one, right?
Yeah.
But I could go have my guitar into the quarter note delay, bim, 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 and into my eighth note delay, dun, 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 in parallel, so they don't affect each other. So this one doesn't get delayed, this one doesn't get delayed by this one, and I have 2 very clear delays. One could be an analog delay, which we'll get to. One could be a tape delay. They're different kind of sounds.
All right.
And I have them not affecting each other. So the possibilities are pretty damn cool. So it can do this. Then it has, let's look at the back. Turn on your camera there.
Okay.
So on the back you can see some possibilities. We have inputs, and the cool thing with that is that you can have 2 guitars plugged in, and depending on the preset you can determine which guitar is active.
All right.
So technically we could both play through this, and I hit the switches, and depending on the preset it's either you who we're hearing or me.
Okay.
Or you have 2 guitars wired in on stage and you don't have to switch cables, you just switch presets. So possibilities are there. Then we have pretty straightforward the first loop, the second, the third. So you send from here to the pedal, you come back into the return. And we have this up to, let's say, loop number 6. Pretty straightforward send return. Loop number 7 will send mono, but has a stereo return. So you can send to a delay, which then creates a stereo output, which we're gonna have to get these 2 cables in somewhere. And that comes back here in stereo. But that means from now on, if we want to continue stereo, we have to keep the whole signal stereo. So sending to pedal number 8, you can send left and right, and you return left and right. So 7 is sending mono, returning stereo, and 8 is completely stereo. Understood?
I think so.
Okay. Then we have send volume, return volume. That's a tricky thing. You can use a volume pedal and put that in here, and that loop will always be on. So that's kind of like an extra loop that you cannot turn on and off. But you can also move it wherever you want. So your volume pedal could be anywhere. What's that good for?
Just affecting certain parts of
Yes. Imagine an overdrive, for example. If I'm in front of an overdrive, so I have my volume before the overdrive. You know, an overdrive reacts to the playing volume or your guitar volume.
Yeah.
So the more volume you give it, the more it will distort. So if you put a volume pedal in front of it, when the volume pedal is lower, you have less distortion. And when you bring it up, you have more distortion. So in front of an overdrive, it will regulate how much the overdrive distorts. When it's behind it, it's dealing with the already overdriven signal, and then it's really just volume. Okay, so it depending on where you put the volume pedal, it has an effect. So you can move that, but the cool thing is, this is just a loop. And once you understand that, I can put any pedal in there. I simply have to turn the pedal on and off, because I can't turn that loop on and off. You could put just pretend you're understanding that.
Alright.
You could put the preamp of your amp in there. So
Of course.
of course, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So the preamp of your amplifier can be wired into this with the effects. We're gonna go through this, and that means you can actually move part of your amplifier, part of the amplifier design, the part that makes the sound, the preamp, anywhere in the chain. So you can say, I want it to be behind all my pedals. I want it to be at this point in the signal chain. So you can actually move your preamp wherever you want it.
Okay.
The benefits will become clear.
Right.
Yeah.
This is totally uncomfortable.
Well, that's not my problem.
Yes, it is. If this is uncomfortable and this is moving the whole time, that is your problem.
Why don't you check this out? Why don't you just do this?
Alright, okay.
Haha.
Well, you told me to hold it.
Since when do you listen to me?
Since I'm on camera.
Yeah, usually it's like. Okay, we have outputs. Output left, output right. Okay. We have a tuner out. Not tuna like the fish.
I can read, you know that, right? I've come this far in life.
Yeah, we wonder how. So a tuner out, because going through the tuner obviously is another cable. So here we just go to the tuner, the signal doesn't go anywhere, you can tune at any point in time.
Yeah.
Interesting, it gets over here. Is that the right syntax? Interesting. How would Yoda say that?
Probably just like that.
Interesting, it gets here.
No.
No, that's not Yoda speak.
How does Yoda say
There's
it?
actually...
There's grammar for that.
Yes, there's
but I
grammar
don't
for
know.
that, but you don't know?
I've never learned Yoda. I should.
Christy took that in college. She actually took a class on fantasy speak.
Pretty cool. I want to do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, so here are the control outs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have any idea what they're for?
No.
Okay, it's very simple. Let's take this Mjolnir.
I like that one.
Because it's called Mjolnir.
Yes.
It has a simple foot switch in the back. It's just one signal. It's just a simple 1/4-inch plug that goes to the foot switch, which says switch from channel 1 to channel 2.
Alright.
Okay. Some switches are stereo, using a stereo plug, also called a TRS plug. Tip, ring, sleeve, because it has a tip, a ring, and then a sleeve. TRS, we're going to talk about TRS. It means a stereo cable. And that means there could be two switching functions. It could be channel switching and boost. It could be channel 1, 2, and 3. It could be channel switching and reverb. It could be any kind of switches. It could be something like this. The Walrus Audio, what's it called? Descent has a remote input, which is nothing but accepting a stereo cable and has two switches. So then you can switch the presets. So it's just a signal that goes change.
Alright.
Either in mono or in stereo. Stereo simply means you can switch more things. So some amps have 2 or 3 stereo plugs, TRS plugs in the back, or jacks. Now that's the plug, that's the jack. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you have an Engel Fireball, for example. You have an Engel Fireball?
No.
Okay. You should. It's a good amp. Doesn't matter! So an Engel Fireball has 3 stereo plugs in the back, which allows it to switch between boost in channel 1 and 2 and reverb on and off or something like this. So here we have 1, 2, 3 stereo outputs, which means 6 switching functions that allow you to switch anything that can be switched with a 1/4" cable. Doesn't mean an amp, can mean a pedal. It could mean lights on a stage if they have a TRS or a control input to be turned on and off.
Alright.
It's just a switch. Okay, people really, you need to get this because that's very important. Control really means it's just controlling something. So if your amp can be controlled with a 1/4" cable, mono or stereo, it means, yes, you can control your amp. If your pedal can be controlled. Some pedals like this one, the DD7 by Boss, has a tempo expression input. So I can take one of these control outs, and then the control out is simply going click, 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 and giving a tempo. Okay, so you can do this. Some amps can be switched with MIDI, and I said we get to that.
Yeah.
Some amps, this is extremely important, have a plug in the back that looks like, can you see the MIDI plugs here?
Yeah.
Okay, they have a plug in the back that looks like this, it looks like MIDI, but it is not MIDI. It is merely a DIN, D-I-N, which stands for Deutsche Industrienorm. It is merely a DIN plug, and in that case, it is simply taken several of these signals into one plug. So here you can have 2 per cable with a stereo. If 2 is not enough, you can actually take these 6 of them, make your own cable into a DIN plug, which you can see has more little nibbles. That's a technical term.
I'll believe you.
Little nibble plugs. And then you can switch your amps. So some amps have a proprietary footboard with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 switches on it, and then the cable might actually go into a DIN plug. So you have to find out on your amp whether it's switched with MIDI, Hughes & Kettner has that, Dietzel has that, some other companies. Whether it can be switched with control outs, normal 1/4", or whether it's using a proprietary
You suck.
proprietary, you say it.
Proprietary.
Yeah, say it fast.
Proprietary.
You suck.
Proprietary.
A
Proprietary.
DIN plug, a what?
A proprietary.
DIN plug from your switcher board, which means you can still use the ES8 to control your amp, but it might also mean you have to manufacture that cable yourself. Consult the manual of your amp and say, okay, this is how it's wired for those functions, and now you make a breakout cable from that DIN plug to 3 or 4, 3 TRS plugs. Have you followed me on this one in any way?
Yes.
Okay. We're almost through. Here we have expression control 1. This thing can also accept. It can also accept control input. So just like it can switch something, it itself can be switched. So here we have the Boss FS7. It's just a foot switch. It's just 2 things that say on off, on off. And those 2 going actually into one stereo cable if I wanted to. I can go into, see, it accepts 4 different control inputs. So I could program this puppy out of here into the control input, and then it's just getting a switch signal. And I can do anything with that switch signal. That's the insane thing about this. This is where it just goes. Any of these switches on the front could be this switch.
Okay.
If I wanted, the memory manual switch to be this, I can program that. I plug this in and I say, hey, whenever I switch B on the external switch, turn that thing on and off.
Okay.
I can turn a loop on and off. Just, if I want manual control over loop number 5, I can program that to be that. Okay? Follow me on this one. I can say that this switch, number A, turns on the light on the bank down switch.
That's a bit unnecessary.
But it can do it.
All right. Okay. I guess.
It's actually, it might
Okay.
actually get necessary at some point in what we're trying to do with the series.
All right.
I'm just trying to illustrate to you. Also, every switch on the front panel of this thing can be anything. Let's say in a certain preset, you don't need the bank down switch because you know that in this preset, for sure, you will never use the bank down switch. You can program the bank down switch to turn your amps channels.
Okay.
You could program the bank down switch to turn on the lights on 3 other knobs.
That thing is going places.
Yes. You could program
Wow.
the bank up switch to be the memory manual switch.
Okay.
You're starting to understand. You could program the bank up switch to send out a control signal out of control 1 to be a tap tempo for an analog delay.
All right.
Okay, so you're like on preset number 1, you're like, this is my lead sound and I want to have a tap tempo, and then you go click, 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 and then it's your tap
So
tempo.
basically, all that means nothing because you can change it to everything you want.
That is exactly what that means.
Ha!
What did I do now?
I'm
I went back
Sherlock
up.
Holmes.
So just like every switch on here can be anything, any of the 4 possible external switches can be anything.
Okay.
That's crazy shit, okay? The problem is, it also makes it insanely complicated.
Yes.
Because the possibilities are there. With great power comes great possibilities.
Are you saying it wrong on purpose?
With great possibilities comes Spider-Man.
Sure. That's just how it goes.
With great possibilities comes a lot of confusion. No.
With great confusion comes lots of possibilities, and Spider-Man might appear.
Yes, Spider-Man might appear because we look at the ES8. So this is something that these control inputs can do. What they also can do, we have a Roland, not Boss, same company,
Okay.
EV5 expression pedal here. And that's, by the way, what a TRS plug looks like. Can you see this in here? Yeah. TRS because of tip, ring, sleeve.
Yeah.
In German, we just say Stereokabel.
Which makes sense.
Stereo cable. TRS plug. Okay. So this is an expression pedal. What does an expression pedal do? It has an opinion that it likes to obey.
Likes to talk a lot. Expresses stuff.
Hold the DD7. So let's say I want to have, I don't want to bend down to do my delay time. Okay. I can plug this in here. And now I have control over my delay time.
Ah.
Okay. An expression pedal can control parameters. Which parameters it can control is of course highly dependent on what it's controlling. In here it might only be delay time or feedback. I don't know how you set that up. I know that on the Strymon pedals it can control anything. On the big Strymons it actually can control several parameters at once. Meaning as I increase the value here, some knobs would in your head go up while others go down. So you can morph between presets. So I can of course go on my board and plug this into my DD7 and it's hardwired and that's it. But what if I want to save space and only use one of these? But I have 2 pedals that need an expression pedal.
You put a switch there?
And that's what this is. So I plug my expression pedal into, see, XP1, XP2.
Yeah.
So I can put 2 expression pedals on here. And then there are 2 expression outputs. And I can actually wire this to 2 different pedals. And then for each preset say which pedal this goes to. You also have to remember what you programmed.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Because that is the problem. So it's not always the same thing. It is, this can one time control the delay tempo on the DD7, and also maybe on a different preset, the mix on your Strymon Mobius. You have a Strymon Mobius? You should talk to Strymon about that.
I want one.
Apparently that's how easy that was. Do you know what a Strymon Mobius is? No. Okay, well, it's the blue thing that's somewhere here. We'll play with it.
All right.
It's a modulation pedal. You don't even know what that means. Awesome. This is gonna be fun. So, and here's MIDI. MIDI is just an 8-bit language. It's digital. It's nothing but like the control outputs. MIDI is just digital numbers being shoveled around to tell something that it's supposed to do something. I can tell a device, switch to this program. I can tell a device, oh, that knob, please turn it to that value. It's just...
Okay.
I can have MIDI tap tempo, which means I can program my bank up switch to take the tempo that I'm tapping and send that as a MIDI value out to a specific pedal. Now what that value is can depend on the pedal. So we have to consult the manual for that pedal, check what message does it want to receive. There's 127 different messages. So that pedal might say, okay, I want continuous controller number 17 for my tempo. And then we tell this thing, hey, on this channel send out 17 so that that pedal knows the tempo. Does that roughly make sense? There's something called a program change, which is very simple. It changes the programs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And then there's something called continuous controllers. And those are freely usable for every pedal. So in some pedals, they might do things like accepting tempo, turning the mix knob. It might even turn a pedal on and off.
Wow.
I mean, so continuous controller
Right.
15 might be, 2 states, on and off. So that might mean you don't even have to put the pedal in a loop. You might just put it not in a loop and control it with MIDI and say, turn on, turn off. Okay?
Yeah.
What this can do is it can take an analog expression pedal. Okay? Measure where I am and turn that into a digital signal
Okay.
in a MIDI signal. And then with MIDI out, go to, let's say, a Strymon timeline and control the mix and the feedback. Okay? So that's pretty cool. So it cannot just only go out of the expression pedal outputs, but this can be converted into digital signals and control digital pedals. It might even, depending on the amplifier you have, control your amp's volume. If your amp has MIDI and the volume on your amp can be controlled with a MIDI signal, that might be possible. There might be amps like this. Yes, this could be the volume on your amplifier. Okay? You simply have to understand that there's different kinds of signals, digital signals and analog signals, and this machine can take some in, change them to something else, and control stuff. It's pretty much Captain Kirk. It's the commander.
Okay.
Okay? Of course, when it comes to MIDI, there's a whole can of worms that we're gonna open. It gets really complicated there. So, any kind of questions?
I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Which is why we're doing this.
I have gone from Jon Snow to Sherlock Holmes. No, I think I've roughly gotten it.
So now we're gonna have to show these numbnuts how to do all of this.
Alright.
We're gonna start in the next video with simply plugging in a couple of pedals and showing how to program it to turn those on and off. Not the pedals, the loops. And to remember the loops. Then we're gonna go into moving loops around, then creating parallel loops, which we're also gonna get into the volume loop and how to use it creatively. Then we're gonna get into controlling your amp with control outs. Then we're gonna get into expression pedal. We're gonna go into tap tempo, analog tap tempo, and MIDI tap tempo. And from then on, it's gonna get complicated.
It's gonna get complicated.
Yes, we're gonna go into dual amp setups, where you control 2 amplifiers, bringing in the effects loop of 1 amplifier into the volume loop, therefore taking the preamp from 1 amp and routing it to the other amp. Stereo pedals, controlling Strymon pedals inside of loops and outside of loops with continuous controller bypass switching.
Hours and hours of fun.
Hours and hours of fun. I'm gonna have to dumb it down for you, little brain.
It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah. So yeah. Comments below. We're going to do this in the next few weeks and have a blast.
Well, a little bit cute.
Can you do metal?
I can do metal.
Can you do it like I do it?
Well, you're pretty good at it. No.
No? No? Well, we'll work our way up to that.
Yeah, we're gonna practice that soon.
Okay. That was probably like a 2-hour video, but hey, this thing is complicated and this is a series that's coming up. And if you jump into any of the upcoming lessons, which hopefully will be very short, that's fine. This is what it's for. It's kind of like a Nachschlagewerk.
A manual.
Can't.
What? Oh!
Emmanuel can't get it. Philosopher joke. Hey, you got it. That means you're not as stupid as I look.
What?
Okay, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.